morning, ladies and gentlemen. All Australian students should learn how to code. This is a bold, profound, and very relevant statement. With a show of hands, who believes this is true? That is approximately maybe half of the room, maybe even the greater majority of this auditorium. There are a myriad of benefits that programming provides. It builds critical and analytical thinking, problem solving, reasoning systematically, concepts such as variables, process of design, core principles, how to even experiment, how to express our ideas and feelings in a creative way. The list goes on and on and on. So, let me ask you this. With a show of hands, who here has implemented or even introduced coding into their curriculum? Now that is an obvious minority. We clearly believe students should learn how to code, but most likely we don't know how to go about doing it, implementing it, or even making it happen. 3 years ago, I was sitting in my Year 6 classroom thinking to myself, I love apps. I love playing apps. I have all these ideas floating around in my head. Why don't I just make an app? So, firstly, I decided to approach my parents for some advice on how I should go about making an app. But, unfortunately, like the majority of parents, they didn't have any clue. The next logical place was school and to ask my teachers. When in doubt, ask a teacher, right? However, not many or hardly any knew what I should do, where I should go, or even how I should do. One teacher in particular said to me, no, that's not for you, Leio. You shouldn't go down that road. Maybe just think about doing some animations or something like that. I very politely said, but sir, I've done so many animations already. I'm interested in making an app. So, feeling rather disillusioned, I ventured where anyone who doesn't know something goes, to good old Google. Interestingly, just recently I was speaking to Ruslan Kogan, founder and CEO of Kogan Technologies, who said, Google is for people who actually want to learn. So, I did want to learn and was definitely in the right place. Broad and massive Google land. Now, at this time, I was feeling really overwhelmed. PHP, Java, C++, Python, Objective-C, Ruby. I struggled with this whole process, but decided Objective-C was my starting point, as I wanted to venture into iOS development. So, I started to go to websites such as lynda.com to begin learning. You know, admittedly at this time, there wasn't very much on websites such as Code Academy or Code.org that is available now. It was extremely hard, but due to my tenacity and perseverance of my character, by the end of Year 7, I had an app on the App Store, Phonic Buddies. I would like to take this opportunity now to give you a quick demo of Phonic Buddies. So, here we go, here's Phonic Buddies. So, now we can see here, this is the starting screen of Phonic Buddies. I think, you know, I look at the graphics now and think maybe to myself, oh, maybe it could have been a bit different. I think I did this app 2 years ago and I've learned a lot since then. So, if I press play, now I go into one of the boxes. So I'll turn the sound up. You have it? Great. So, if I go maybe into the purple box, we can see we have some letters here. So we can see if I press the sound. So I'm guessing everyone knows their phonics, but hopefully. So if I can press the different S, and they're going to say their sound. So the really objective is this, to really teach prep students even younger to learn the phonic sounds. Now, a lot of people ask me, you know, how did I get the idea to do Phonic Buddies? And I think, you know, my younger cousin Amber, she was learning phonic sounds and she was having trouble with them, and I would always, you know, put out cards on the floor and she would, you know, tap them when I said the sound. And I think that, you that was a great game. She seemed to really like that, out of all the things I tried to teach her with. And, she said sometimes she would, draw little phonic, characters on the sounds. So on the card she made a little face or little eyes. And then, I thought it would be great to have, an electronic version of this. So I can see now I finished it. And when I finished it, I get a star on my letter. So now I'll go into a box that I finished earlier. And here we can see here some sounds, and then you can just randomly touch the sounds, and they'll make their sound. So that's Phonic Buddies.
Back to menu.
So did everyone enjoy that? Great. So can anyone tell me what was the main reason I made that app? Does anyone know? No one? Yeah, well, I think, the opportunity wasn't an offer in the classroom setting for me, but I really think that even though it wasn't on offer, I am a rare minority, but I think, I love making the app because I think it was something challenging for me, because I think students love to get challenged. So from there, I created my second app, Aussie Pop Quiz, and I developed apps through my business, App Away. And I've done that for a lot of companies around Australia and made apps for them. So I stand here today that even that process of sorting information was way too hard for any average Australian student. So I think I had to facilitate my own learning environment because in the classroom setting, it wasn't an offer to me, like I said before. And I think even though I'm known to be a student who's creative and likes to think outside of the box, I firmly believe that given the opportunity, all students have the capability to do the same. I think if the student was challenged and had encouragement, they would have been able to do an app. I mean, it's not impossible. And I think, so Kenny Robinson, in his inspirational 2006 TED Talk, stated, students have an extraordinary capacity to learn, but they've been educated out of creativity as they progress through the system. And I can strongly relate to this through my own experiences. I mean, there's been a lot of times I've been in the classroom and I've felt that the restrictions within the curriculum have, hindered my creative processes. So last year in Year 8, our science teachers gave us a weekend task to create a poster about the rock cycle. So over the years, I'd done so many posters, and I felt I could do something different. I thought I'd be able to produce something maybe of more substance and skill than the average poster requires. And I thought I would do an iBook and embed interactive content so my class would be able to maybe look at the iBook and then be able to study for the test. So I wondered how my teacher was going to react and stressed whether I should stick to the status quo and do a poster, but I went ahead anyway. So come Monday morning, all the Year 8 teachers had 119 posters and one iBook. So why was this? Because I dared to step outside of the box, my Rock On with the Rock Cycle iBook was well received by everyone and has even been picked up by Apple Education in the US and is on their website worldwide as an exemplar for iBook's author. So I'm now going to give a quick demo of the book that I did over a weekend. So here it is, it's called Rock On with the Rock Cycle. Took me a long time to come up with that name. So first it's going to show an intro video. that video I also did over the weekend. I think I'm very proficient at After Effects. So let's get into the iBook. I mean, firstly we can start off, here's an interactive diagram, so I can click into that, and I can see the different things, and I can reset it. So throughout this whole book, I did all the text, and I actually had to gain copyright for a lot of the images because Apple picked it up. But here we can see as well, here's a 3D diagram of basalt. So I really think the main reason I did this was, to teach my fellow students. So I really thought that I tried to embed as much interactive content to, get them to want to actually open the book. So here we can go through, and then here it talks about the rock cycle, and we have a review at the end, so here we can go through some questions. Does anyone know the answer? No one knows the answer. Steve? Great. Was that a science teacher? So that's what I ended up doing for my iBook, and I really think that, I'm sure you'll all agree that it was much better than a poster. So please allow me to pose this question. Why didn't any other student think or even consider doing something different? I mean, surely almost every single student is on some sort of technological device outside of school hours, and they are capable, and they are savvy, and they're definitely resourceful. There's a huge tsunami of technological consumerism amongst Australian students, and rather than the students just being consumers alone and passively using technology, we need to empower and shape our diverse students today for the 21st century jobs of tomorrow. And, I really believe the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is coding. Coding needs to be embedded into our curriculum, and teachers should leverage the subjects they already teach to engage students with coding. So I'm not saying maybe a coding club or an activity for a select number of students, but in every single class, you should be integrating coding as an activity. And I mean, coding is a vague concept to many of us, and it is simply explaining to a computer through lines of code what to do. I mean, some people describe learning coding as like learning a new language. Just like you have French or English or math. I mean, they're not all hard to learn. Therefore, coding isn't hard to learn. So, how do teachers implement coding into their curriculum? Well, some examples could range from creating games and imaginative stories with software such as Tinker, Scratch, Kodu, Kodia, etc. Programming mazes, robots, Lego and quizzes, designing interactive graphs to collate with research, doing live code performances, building web apps and their own apps using basic HTML, CSS and CSS animations, creating, say, histograms with Ruby, using Raspberry Pi in projects such as collecting data or even making a moving display, creating new sounds with Sonic Pi, creating websites with HTML, developing browser-based games with Java or even JavaScript. I mean, all of this and more. The sky is literally the limit. Every teacher in every subject should be incorporating coding into their classes. I mean, it may be a daunting prospect for any teacher who doesn't know coding, but it's not about how much you know, but how well you can facilitate it. Sugata Mitra mentioned in one of his talks, it's not about making learning happen, it's about letting learning happen. Teachers need to be the facilitators of the environment that is conducive to 21st century students. I implore you not to underestimate your present or even future students. If you can create the learning environment, integrating coding, your students will surpass even the highest set of expectations you can think of. Just like Apple revolutionize technology, our Australian schools need to revolutionize education. Code today, change tomorrow. Thank you.